Okay, in our last video, we looked at how to put content into the body section so that it will show on the web page. Then we looked at how to wrap the content with element tags using a feature in Emmet. And I want to go a little bit further now and look at how we can replace characters that are inside of our content so that we can make it look a little bit better. To do this, and with all of my future videos, then what I'm going to do is get the desktop to look the way I have it look whenever I'm doing actual work. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get rid of this Explorer pane over here. I'm just going to click on the icon up here, turn it off. It's no problem. It'll come right back if you will click it again. It comes right back. So just turn it off so we have more screen room. And then I like to have the Visual Studio Code editor on the left side of my monitor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Windows key. It's down on the bottom row of keys close to the space bar, and then tap on the left arrow key, and that throws the editor over onto the left half of my monitor. I'm going to go ahead and open up Go Live. Now for your computer, I don't know how fast it will be, but for mine, the first time I click on Go Live to open up the Go Live server window, it always takes a few seconds for it to come up. But here it is now, and it's on the right half of my screen, and the code editor is over here on the left side of my screen. That way I can work in my code, and then I can see my changes as I do this work. Now, what we need to do is we need to replace these three dots, because you can tell here, whoever put these in, they were put in a dot, and then they hit a space, then another dot, then a space, then a dot. And then notice here the T comes right after that dot, but come right down here, and we can see that here's a dot, space, dot, space, dot, and then a space. So whoever put these in didn't do it in a very consistent manner. So we have a way using what are called multi-cursors, and it'll allow us to select all of these at once and replace them all at once. Now, first of all, you may know that three dots in a row like this are normally referred to as ellipses. So in the textbook, in chapter 5 of the textbook, you can see here on page 108 in the textbook, chapter 5, that the author gives us several different characters, and then it tells us the entity name. So what we're going to do here, she has one of these here listed, and it's the horizontal ellipses right here. Horizontal ellipses. And the entity name for this is the ampersand symbol, HELLIP, semicolon. So there is a feature now in Visual Studio Code that allows us to select things that are alike. For instance, if I wanted to select all of the P tags that begin with less than P, but don't contain less than /P, then I simply highlight one of them, and then I can just hold down Control D and tell it to select the next one in line, next one in line, next one in line. And then as I do that, you can see here along the right-hand side of each of these that have been highlighted that there is a cursor that's flashing. This is what we mean by multiple cursors. And so if I wanted to change all of those, then I could use the arrow keys here to go back and change any part of this. So we're going to use that same skill in doing this. Remember, we have some that are like this and some that are like this, but they have an extra space at the end. So what I'm going to do is start with the ones that have the extra space at the end. And there's two ways that you can do this. You can select them individually. Once you highlight the first pattern that you want to replace, then you hold down Control and tap on D and D and D. And every time you press on D, you get the next item listed. And when you've reached the end, it'll just start looping back up to the top, and you can't really tell that it's adding any more. There's another way to do this too. I'm going to highlight this pattern of content right here. And that's what you need to always think of when you're using multiple cursors, is finding a pattern of content that you're wanting to do something with. So once I get that first pattern selected, I can hold down Control and Shift and then tap on the letter L key. And that will select all of them in the document that match that particular pattern. What I want to do now, I have all of them selected, and you can see that at the end of each of these highlighted blue section that I have a flashing cursor. And what I'm going to do is with that, I'm just going to start typing backspace. And it took them out. I just hit backspace one time. Now be careful, don't hit it more than once. If you do hit it more than once, focus right here where the cursor is between the D and the C, between dedicated can. If I hit the backspace key more than once, it starts taking out the next character. And then notice that it does it everywhere, like right down here in this paragraph on line 19. It takes out all of those. Now, if you do something like that, don't worry. Hit the escape key. Escape is how we get out of the multi-cursor. And then I'm going to hit Control Z to undo. Control Z again. Control Z again. I'm just going to keep hitting Control Z until I get back to where I was. Now, there's another thing that I could do here, and that is with the cursors all flashing on the left side of these selected contents, I'm just going to use the arrow key. I mash the arrow key to the left one time, and from there, I'm going to hit the delete key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. I'm looking right here between dedicated and can, and I have all of the insertion points are flashing exactly where that series of dots was just a moment ago. And this is where I want to type in the ampersand and then HELLIP semicolon. Now when I do that, notice that the Visual Studio Code automatically highlights what I've typed here, the ampersand HELLIP semicolon. It highlights all of that in a blue font because that's just simply the browser's way of telling me that that is a character entity. You'll learn more about all these terms later on. Right now I'm going to hit Escape because that's what I want to see. Now we need to go back up here and get this other pattern of 3 dots. This is the pattern that does not have an extra space at the end. Again, I've highlighted the first pattern that I want, and I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-L, and it selects all of those automatically. I'm just going to hit backspace one time to take that out, and then I'll type in the ampersand, HELLIP, semicolon, and then Escape to get out of multi-cursor mode, and then Control-S to save. And when we come back over to look at our live content, we can see that there are 3 dots now with no extra spaces in between all. These are ellipses, the way that they should be. So this is how we select multiple items in our content and replace them all at once. And believe me, this is going to be a huge skill for you to learn how to use as you start working with much longer pages than this one, which is right now only 24 lines long. We're going to have some pages that are 300 and 400, 500 lines long. And so how in the world would you find everything on the page without missing anything and then replace them all at once? The alternative way is to do them one at a time in the old manual way. This is a much smarter way to work.